भजयो जय गौरा चंदेरारती के शोभा भजयो जय गौरा चंदेरारती के शोभा जानावी तत्वाने जग मन लोभा जग मन जानावी तत्वाने जग मन लोभा दक्षिण निताय चांद बामे गदाधार दक्षिण निताय चांद बामे गदाधार निताय चांद वामे गदाधार निताय चांद वामे गदाधार निकटे अद्वैत श्रीनि निवास छत्रधारा अद्वैत श्रीनिवास छत्रधारा निकटे अद्वैत श्रीनिवास छत्रधारा बसियाचे गौरचान रत्ना सिंहासने बसी याचे गौरचान रत्ना सिंहासने याचे गौरचान रत्ना सिंहासने आरती करे न ब्रह्मा आदि देवगाने आदि देवगान आरती करे न ब्रह्मा आदि देवगाने नरहरियादि कोरी चमर दुलाया नरहरियादि कोरी चमर दुलाया आदि कोरी चमर दुलाया संजय मुकुंद बासु घोषयादिगाय संजय मुकुंद बासु घोषयादिगाय शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताला शंख बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताला शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे मधुर मृदंग बाजे परामरसाला मधुर मृदंग बाजे परामरसाला शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल कि बाबा हो कोटि चंद्र जिनी वदन उज्ज्वल गाला दे सेवनमाला कोरे जलमाला गाल दे सेवनमाला कोरे जलमाला कि ಶಿವ ಚುಕನಾರದ ಪ್ರೇಮೆ ಗದ ಗದ ಬಕತಿ ವಿನೋದ ದೇಖೆ ಗೋರಾರ ಸಂಪದ बकति विनोद देखे गोरार संपदा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद जय श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Haribol, Nitai Gaur, Haribol. Nitai Gaur, Haribol, Nitai Gaur, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jayo Gora Nitai Jaya Gora Nitai Jayo Jagannath Jayo Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Sitaram Jayo Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gopal Krishna Goswami Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol
नमाओ विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवक्ताचार्य स्कोन फाउंडरचार्य कृष्ण कृपा मूर्ति चरणारविंद ए श्री भक्ति वेदांत श्री प्रभुपाद महाराज की अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। श्री रामचंद्र भगवान की जय। गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड श्री गोवर्धन की जय। गोप गोपीनाथ की जय। श्री धाम श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। अयोध्या धाम की जय। मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। धर्म क्षेत्र कुरुक्षेत्र ज्योतिषा तीरथ धाम की जय। समवेद भक्तवृंद की जय। जुग धर्म हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। गौर निताई की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. जय श्री गौर गंगा श्री प्रभुपाद महाराज की जय। नमस्ते नरसिंहाय। नामस्ते नरसिंहाय। नामस्ते नरसिंहाय। प्रहलाद लाद दायिने। हिरण्यकाशी पूर्व सहाय। शिलाटंका नकालाये। ये तो नरसिंगा पर तो नरसिंगा। यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंगा। बाहिर नरसिंगा हृदय नरसिंगा। नरसिंहमुदिं शरणं प्रपदे। तव कर कमल वरे नाकाम अद्भुत श्रृंगार। दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनु भृंगा। केशव धीरता नर हरि रूपा। जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह देव। जय नरसिंह देव। जय नरसिंह देव। जय भक्त प्रहलाद। जय भक्त प्रहलाद। भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम हरे हरे। बोल कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय, प्रभुपाद महाराज की जय, गुरुदेव महाराज की जय। जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय जय गोपी जन वल्लभा, जय गिरवर धारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी, जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। बोल कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय, वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय, प्रभुपाद महाराज की जय, गुरुदेव महाराज की जय।
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Aganyatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Visakha Nivitamsa. Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavani Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine. Gaura Premanandi Haribo. So tonight we are celebrating the Guru Puja or Vyas Puja of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. And he's an exceptional devotee as Srila Prabhupada, very intimate devotee as Srila Prabhupada. And tonight we're going to hear some interesting things that Prabhupada has said, and we'll relate them also to Gopal Krishna Maharaj. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, 11th verse, it says, Vedanti tattvavidas tattvam yajganam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti jaganat ti sabhyate bhagavaniti sabhyate. So it says, learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So, Prabhupada explains in a very profound way that the absolute truth, meaning Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Absolute Truth, is both subject and object. What does that mean exactly? That means that everything we see is expanded from Krishna, and it's his own energy is expanded. And therefore, he is the source of everything spiritual and material. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pavartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Krishna says in the 10th chapter, 8th verse, that he is the source of everything material and spiritual. So, he is both the subject and the object. That means that he's the source of everything, and everything you see, whether it's spiritual or material, is him also, because it's his own energy. So this is a unique thing, because in the material world, we don't see like that. In the material world, what do we see? First of all, in the spiritual world, Krishna expands himself as Balaram, and Balaram expands as the first Chaturvyuha, and then from Balaram there's expansion of Narayana, and from Narayana there's second Chaturvyuha, and from the second Chaturvyuha the Vishnu incarnations in the material world, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and from Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, all the avatars that appear, Matsya, Kurma, and Nrsimha, etc. So we see this huge expansion of Krishna. And when you talk about the material world, there are an infinite number of universes in the material world, infinite number of Brahmas, infinite number of Vishnus, infinite number of Shivas, and they're all expanded from Krishna, and then infinite number of Kshirodakshaya Vishnu as Paramatma, present in the heart of every living entity in all those universes, infinite number of universes, and also the expansion of Paramatma in the heart of every living entity and in every atom of all the universes. This is unbelievable amount of expansion of Krishna, and every one of his expansions, his plenary expansions, has the same power as Krishna does. So if you begin to think about this, you'll see that no one can be equal to or greater than Krishna. And besides that, there are also many devotees who are empowered, like Vyasadeva and other devotees that have powers given to them. They're jivas, but they're given extraordinary powers, like Brahma also is a Vivaswan is a jiva, and Varuna is a jiva. All these jivas have been given powers by Krishna. So Krishna's expansions are impossible to grasp because we live in a very, very limited lifestyle, and we have very limited time and space modules. But when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we begin to expand our vision of things and understanding of things, and we realize how insignificant we are, and what a great benediction it is to meet a genuine devotee like Gopal Krishna Maharaj and learn about these things, and to become gradually free from material attachments, from family attachments. Now, and family attachment is the biggest obstacle for making spiritual advancement. Now, does that mean that ISKCON is against, or Krishna consciousness is against family? No. What ISKCON or Krishna consciousness or the Vedic pure knowledge is against is body-to-body identification. What we're teaching is soul-to-soul identification. But most people have that body-to-body identification, and that is the greatest obstacle to making spiritual advancement. The greatest obstacle. Prabhupada explains this in many different places. So, what's the difference between body-to-body attachment and soul-to-soul attachment? Body-to-body attachment is mundane. It's based on sense gratification. This was Arjuna's problem. Arjuna himself had a body-to-body relationship with his family members, his immediate family and his extended family. And because of that, he said no to Krishna. He said no to Krishna. I will not follow what you say. But he still had the sense, or let's say a little bit of composure, to understand that he should surrender to Krishna, but ask questions to hear from Krishna what is the supreme absolute truth, and then deliberate on that, and then make a decision whether he was going to fight or not. So he surrenders to Krishna. Sasyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. He said, now I'm your disciple. I'm surrendered unto you. I'm completely confused. I don't really know what I'm doing. You please instruct me. And then he began to ask him many, many questions. And Krishna began to answer them in full. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said to him, have you heard everything I have said? And do you understand? Is there anything you don't understand? If you don't understand, I'm ready to explain it again. So we see, right in the middle of battlefields, this amazing discussion takes place between Krishna and Arjuna. And Krishna says, Kaschit itachchutam partha, O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth. Have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the Lord was acting as the spiritual master of Arjuna. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjuna whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain any point or the whole Bhagavad Gita if so required. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book written by a poet or fiction writer. It is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. What is the darkness of ignorance? It's attachment to the family on a body-to-body basis. This is what kept Arjuna back from agreeing to fight. And Krishna had to correct that, and he had to speak the whole Bhagavad Gita to correct it. Now, what is the difference between body-to-body attachment and soul-to-soul attachment? When we're attached on the basis of the body, we're actually engaged in sense gratification, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending with our family members, whether it's immediate family or extended family or ethnicity or nationality or a race, etc. And we live a life of sense gratification, even if you're initiated. But as long as you have that body-to-body relationship, you're in Maya. Because you will not surrender everything to Krishna. Krishna says, Sarvadharmam parityaja, mamekam saranam vraja, aham tvam sarvapapebhyo, mokshayisyami mahasucha. He tells Arjuna, look, give up all your so-called duties and surrender unto me. And if you do this, I promise you, Satyam Te, that I will free you from all karmic reactions, either good or bad, and liberate you from the influence of the modes of material nature so that you can come back to me. Therefore, you have no reason to hesitate, no reason to doubt, no reason to fear. That is the ultimate verse of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 66th verse. So, this false family attachment makes us incapable of surrendering completely to Krishna. Incapable. We will not completely surrender. We might surrender somewhat, definitely, but not completely. And therefore, you cannot go back to Godhead. You must break that material attachment in order to go back to Godhead. This is a very serious question. So Prabhupada explains that Krishna is the last word of the absolute truth, and Paramatma is a partial representation of the personality of Godhead. And the impersonal Brahman is simply the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun god. So less intelligent students of spiritual life, of either of the above schools, in other words, you have the Mayavadis who think that the ultimate destination is Brahman, the Brahman effulgence, and then you have the yogis who think the ultimate realization is Paramatma. And then you have the devotees who know that the ultimate destination and the supreme absolute truth is Krishna, the origin of everything. As he says, Aham sarvasya prabhava, matak sarvam pravartate. I'm the source of everything, material and spiritual. So the less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization. But those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of the one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. Just like one time, three blind men were walking, and they, without seeing it, they ran into an elephant. And one of them ran into the leg of the elephant, and he sort of felt it and said, "Oh, this is a tree." And another one ran into the proboscis of the elephant, and he said, "Oh no, this is a snake." And another one touched the ear of the elephant. He said, "No, it's like a bird, with big wings." Now all three of them are holding on to the elephant, and they have three different views or understandings of the elephant. See? So that is what's happening. That unless we have complete knowledge of Krishna, we only see a small part of the Supreme Absolute Truth, whatever part we're grabbing onto. It can be karma, it can be jnana, it can be yoga. But when we come to bhakti, pure devotion to the Lord without attachment to family, without attachment to anything material, and what's the proof that we're not attached to anything material? We use everything material in the service of Krishna. And we live a minimalist life. That is explained in Ishopanishad. Ishavaisham idam sarvam jatkinja jagatinam jagat tena tak tena bunjitaha mahagritaha krastisriddanam. The Supreme Absolute Truth Personality Godhead is the owner and controller of everything. But he has set aside for every living entity their minimal needs. Knowing this, we should accept only our minimal needs and use everything above that in the service of the Lord. So what are our minimal needs? You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to also work, earn some money. Now, how you spend your money determines if you're actually a pure devotee or not. And how you spend your time doing this eating, sleeping, mating, and defending will determine whether you're a real devotee or not. Most people end up being partial devotees because they don't completely surrender everything to Krishna at one point in their life. Just like Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, at one point in their life, they surrendered everything. They were both very wealthy people, but they gave it all up and became mendicants. They wore very simple clothing, and most of the time it was clothing that was discarded by others, and they would wash it and put it on their bodies. And they did not even have a house. They slept under trees in Vrindavan, and different trees every night. And they ate hardly anything, maybe a little bit of ghee or milk and a dry chapati like that. But they produced tremendous amount of spiritual, very profound spiritual literatures. They didn't have paper. They wrote them on leaves. Some of those leaves are still preserved today. And they reestablished Vrindavan that had been forgotten 500 years ago. It was mainly paddy fields. And they built temples, but they didn't live in the temples. They continued to live under trees. And these were the greatest devotees in modern history. They are Mahajans. There are ancient Mahajans, and there are modern Mahajans. They were modern Mahajans. And they gave the example of what it means to be a pure devotee by sacrificing everything for the service of Krishna. And people loved them because they had no anger, they had no greed, they had no lust, they had no bad habits. They were only dedicated completely to Krishna, and everybody liked them. The dacoits liked them, and the normal people liked them because they could see they were completely sincere. And not only that, they knew how to deal with the Muslim rulers to get granite and stone to build temples. The Muslims destroyed 40,000 temples, but the Goswamis built at least 3 major temples in Vrindavan and reestablished the whole history of Krishna again. So, and they knew how to speak to people. They were always very humble and meek, and they were very knowledgeable. They could speak Urdu, they could speak Arabic, they could speak Parsi, or Parsi language. They knew Sanskrit. They spoke their vernacular language, the Braj language, or Bengali. These were very exalted, pure devotees. And look at all the good things they did. And because of that, Krishna consciousness is continuing today because of this pure parampara. And of course, our Srila Prabhupada, he spread this movement all over the world, where it was always confined somewhat to India, but he took it all over the world, as was prophesied by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he wrote tons of significant literature based on the original work of the Goswamis and Acharyas and Krishna, not some speculation of his own. And because he wrote the bona fide Bhagavad Gita as it is, or Yata Rup, people started becoming devotees, like myself. Many, many people became devotees just by hearing Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada explains that in the first sloka of the first chapter of Bhagavatam, the supreme truth is self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from the illusion of relativity. None of us right now are free from the illusion of relativity. I can guarantee you that. None of us. And it's absolutely necessary that we understand what this means. So, in the relative world, the knower is different from the known. But in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit, or superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter, or inferior energy. So we are living in what's called duality between our soul and our body. And we mix the two up. And because of that, we become subject to the laws of karma, and we become controlled by the three modes of material nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now, we might be acting in the mode of goodness, but we still have strong material attachments. Therefore, we cannot surrender everything to Krishna. And that is, now, that's normal for most people, even devotees, but at one point, a devotee must completely surrender to the Lord. Otherwise, you cannot go back to Godhead. No matter if you have a bona fide guru, or if you have, if you've passed all your tests, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti this, by Baba, Bhakti Siddhanta, still, you will still remain in the material world. One attachment is enough. One material attachment, one material desire is enough to keep us in the material world, in the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, complete surrender to the Lord is absolutely necessary at the right time. You cannot surrender like that easily when you're married and you still have growing kids that are growing up. But after your kids are grown, after you stop working, you're retired, you must completely surrender to the Lord. Otherwise, you will not leave this world. And this is explained by Prabhupada. He said, there are three kinds of energies of the supreme energetic. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic, but there is a difference in quality of energies. The absolute realm and the living entities are of the same superior energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being in contact with the inferior energy is illusioned, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is the sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute world, there's no such sense of difference between the knower and the known, and therefore everything there is absolute. So as long as we have even one attachment to something material, we see everything as relative. And just like a person said, well, I didn't chant my rounds today, but that's all right. Why do you have to chant every day? Maybe I'll try and chant some more tomorrow. Or why should I go to Mangal Arati every morning? I'll just, I'll just stay at home and sleep in. And why should I go on a Sankirtan? It's cold out there. It's raining. I'll just skip it. So all these little decisions will keep us in the material world until we decide to not be subject to materialistic life. Materialistic life is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. If you look at animals, what do they do? If you watch the cows, or you watch the dogs, or you watch the goats, all day long they're eating, they're sleeping. Even during the day they sleep. And they mate, and they fight also. After they've eaten, they have some energy, they start fighting with each other, not to kill each other, but it's just their nature, right? And then when there's food, they'll fight each other to eat the food, right? But that's their life, and that is called mundane life. That is exactly what human beings do also. They imitate the animals, and they don't engage in any spiritual activity. So therefore, it says, Tat Shradadanak Munayo Jnanavairagya Yuktaye Pasanti Atmini Chatmanam Bhaktyasruta Grihitaye. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. So, engaging in devotional service is the solution to attachment. It's the solution to illusion. It's the solution to everything. Birth and death. It's the solution to continual birth and death. Now, how do we come to the level of having a soul-to-soul relationship rather than a body-to-body relationship? It's by engaging oneself and hopefully one's family in acts of devotion. Because when you engage in bhakti or devotional service, you understand that I am not this body. I am the soul, the eternal soul that's animating the body with energy and consciousness, and my soul belongs to Krishna. I have come from Krishna. I chose to separate myself from Krishna, just like Arjuna chose to say no to Krishna. I will not fight because of material attachments. So we walked away from Krishna voluntarily, and we're put in the material world where we're forced to suffer birth, old age, disease, and death. These things are unnecessary because we have an eternal soul. But as long as we're attached to dominating material nature in order to engage in sense gratification separate from Krishna, and by the way, if you engage in sense gratification, you have to forget Krishna, and Krishna will help you forget him. He'll help you forget him as long as you have material desires, so that you can engage in sense gratification and not feel guilty about it. See? And that's what happens over and over again, because it happened originally in the spiritual world, and now it's happening over and over again in the material world, birth after birth. Birth is unnecessary, death is unnecessary, old age is unnecessary, disease is unnecessary. We only suffer these things because we're not completely surrendered to Krishna. Now you look at someone like Vyasadeva. He's still there in Badarik Ashrama, writing Vedas for the next age, which is going to be Satya Yuga, after this Kali Yuga is over. And then there are other people like him, that like Narada Muni, he never gets old, he never dies. He can travel anywhere in the material world or the spiritual world. These are liberated souls. This is what our potential is. But as long as we're attached to even one thing material, and as long as we have this body-to-body relationship with our family, we will not be able to become free from the cycle of birth and death. So, the way to become free from the cycle of birth and death is to understand that you have an eternal soul, and your soul is part and parcel of Krishna. Mamaivam sa jiva loka, jiva bhuta, jiva loka sanatana. Your soul is sanatana, eternal, and it has an eternal relationship with Krishna. And the way to reestablish that relationship is to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master like Gopal Krishna Maharaj and follow the instructions that he gives. And by the way, however, that when someone is a god brother of your guru, you must treat the god brother with the same respect that you have for a guru. Otherwise, you are aparadi. You have to respect the god brother who's bona fide, in other words, he cannot be engaged in illicit activities, who is bona fide, with the same respect as your guru. Otherwise, you will commit an aparad. This should be understood. And that way, you have 360 degrees of guru. You have guru and the guru bhai, the god brothers of the guru. And if they're all following strictly Krishna consciousness, you have to give the same respect to every one of them. See? So, this is Krishna consciousness. This was what was practiced by the Goswamis. Many times, people refer their disciples to this Goswami or that Goswami. Why? So that they could get higher understanding of Krishna consciousness. They were not, this is my devotee, he belongs to me, and he should only listen to what I say and only give his money to me and only give his time to me. They were not like that. The Goswamis were pure devotees. They were not attached to anything except serving Krishna with love and devotion. And therefore, many times one Goswami would refer his disciple to another Goswami to get more extended knowledge of Krishna consciousness and training. So this is the culture of ISKCON also. You have many gurus in ISKCON. And if they're bona fide, which they are, then they can instruct people, and their initiating guru will encourage their gurus to take instruction from the other gurus, as long as it's the same instruction, that is, whatever Prabhupada has taught us. So this is this culture of Krishna consciousness. It is a culture where there's 360 degrees of gurus all the time, Shiksha and Diksha gurus. So Prabhupada says, the absolute truth is realized in full by the process of devotional service to the Lord, Vasudeva, or Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the full-fledged absolute truth. Brahman is his transcendental bodily effulgence, and the Paramatma is his partial representation. Okay, there should be no talking. So, there are 4 different types of human beings. The karmis, those are the materialists. The jnanis, those are people who are trying to understand their relationship with Paramatma. The karmis, they mostly want to be elevated to the higher material planets where sense gratification is much greater than on the Earth planet, which is a middle Earth planet. And then, of course, there's the lower planets where everything is horrible. So they engage in pious activities in order to be elevated to Swarga, where there are beautiful women like the Apsaris, and there's beautiful gardens, and everything is very, very nice materially. But still, they have simply elevated themselves from second grade or third grade prisoners to first grade prisoners, but they're still prisoners. They're still in the cycle of birth and death. Then you have the jnanis, who are trying to attain the Brahman realization, and they want to merge into the spiritual effulgence of Krishna. That is spiritual, but you can fall down very easily from Brahman. Prabhupada has said, Brahman is already fallen because there is no devotional service in the Brahman realization of the absolute truth, because one must deny his personality to merge into it. So therefore, Brahman is already a fallen situation, although it is eternal. And then there are the yogis who develop mystic powers, and just like Durvasa Muni, he was able to go from the material world to at least Svetadvip, which is a spiritual planet in the material universe, and talk to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because he was envious of Ambarish Maharaj, he was considered fallen, even though he had such power. Right? So all 3, karma, jnana, and yoga, are not qualifications for going back to Godhead. They are steps leading to the qualification. But unless one actually attains pure bhakti, they are still fallen persons. This should be understood very carefully. Then it says, the devotees, he says, the karmis are materialistic, whereas the other 3 are transcendental. The first-class transcendentalists are the devotees who have realized the Supreme Person. The second-class transcendentalists are those who have partially realized the plenary portion of the Absolute Truth, or person, which is Paramatma. And the third-class transcendentalists are those who have barely realized the spiritual focus of the Absolute Person. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the other Vedic literatures, and other Vedic literatures, the Supreme Person is realized by devotional service, which is backed by full knowledge and detachment from material association. This is explained in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and verses number 17 and 18. Tesam jnani nityayukta ekabhaktir visishyate priyo hi jnaninotyata aham sa cha mama priya. of these, meaning Chaturvida Bhajante Mam, or 4 kinds of people that surrender to Krishna. And he says, of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. And then the next verse, Udara sarva evaite jnanitvatma vamevatam astita sahiyuktatma mam evan uttamam gatim. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but the one who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So therefore, unless we hear on a daily basis Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we will not go back to Godhead. This is what is recommended. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We have to be in touch with the Bhagavat every day, morning, afternoon, and evening. So how can you be in touch with Krishna in the working day, in your workplace? By understanding that you are going to give part of your income for spreading Krishna consciousness. Then your work has some meaning to it. But if you hold back, then you're actually in Maya. You're not actually participating wholeheartedly in devotional service. So there's nothing wrong with working. There's nothing wrong with making $1 million a day. But how much do you need to live? Well, we have to have a minimalist life. Ishavaisham idam sarvam, as mantra 1 of Ishopanishad says. And then it says, Kurvan eva karmani jijiva chektam samha evam tvayi nanyatetosti na karma lipyate nare. If you live like this, a minimalist life, accepting only what has been set aside for you by Krishna for your minimal needs, then you become free from all karma and the control of the supernatural forces of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And now you can go back to, now you're already achieved Godhead, because everything you do is for the service of Krishna. So there has to be an understanding between you and your wife and your children and your relatives that you're going to continue with a minimalist lifestyle and use the maximum of your energy in the service of Krishna. You can still work, you can still earn $1 million a day, but you will only spend maybe $50 or $100 or $200 or $400 a day. And what do you do with the rest? You should use it in Krishna's service. Now, you might just earn, let's say, $30,000 a year, but still, there has to be something left for Krishna's service. Otherwise, you will not be engaged thoroughly in Krishna consciousness. So, material devotees are more attached to material benefit. Notice he uses the word devotees, right? He didn't say materialists, karmis. He says materialist devotees or material devotees are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. Therefore, one has to make definite progress from the position of material devotional service to the second-class devotional position. In the second-class position, the devotee can see 4 principles in the devotional line, namely the personality of Godhead, who he worships, and the devotees who he makes friendship with and associates with, and the ignorant who he tries to help, and the envious who he avoids completely. So then you can be an effective preacher. If you on the highest level of devotional service, in other words, you are a pure devotee, you see everyone as a devotee, but you won't be able to preach properly because you'll invite everyone to come and live in the temple, but without vetting them, without seeing if they're actually serious or not. And therefore, you will expose the other devotees to all kinds of calamities. Like, for example, if you invite a thug in your house to meet your family and your kids, and they can look around and see what you have in your house, he'll probably come a later time and steal things from you, or he might kill you. So you have to vet people. So the Madhyama Adhikari sees these 4 categories of people, and the ones who are actually envious, he avoids their association, and he doesn't invite them into the midst of the devotees. Okay, so then it says, that in the second class position, the devotees can see 4 principles in the devotional line, namely the personality of Godhead, his devotees, the ignorant, and the envious. One has to raise himself at least to the stage of second-class devotee and thus become eligible to know the absolute truth. A third-class devotee, therefore, has to receive instructions of devotional service from the authoritative sources of Bhagavata. The number 1 Bhagavata is the established personality of devotee, and the other Bhagavatam is the message of Godhead. So you have the book Bhagavata and the person Bhagavata. So Gopal Krishna Maharaj is the person Bhagavata. He is your Gurudev, and he is completely representing Krishna. He has no material desires. He's using all his energy, all his speaking ability, all his traveling ability, everything he has to spread pure Krishna consciousness. Do you understand what pure Krishna consciousness is? Maybe and maybe not. It depends whether you have these material attachments or not. And unless those attachments can be cut, you will not really understand your Gurudev's instructions properly. The third class devotee, therefore, has to go to the personality of devotee in order to learn the instructions of devotional service. Such a personality of devotee is not a professional man who earns his livelihood by the business of Bhagavatam. Such a devotee must be a representative of Sukadev Goswami, like Sutta Goswami, and must preach the cult of devotional service for the all-around benefit of all people. A neophyte devotee has very little taste for hearing from the authorities. Such a neophyte devotee makes a show of hearing from the professional man to satisfy his senses. This sort of hearing and chanting has spoiled the whole thing. So one should be very careful about the faulty process. The holy messages of Godhead, as inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, are undoubtedly transcendental subjects, but even though they are such transcendental matters are not to be received from the professional man, who spoils them as the serpent spoils milk simply by a touch of his tongue. So Prabhupada here is talking about the people who do Bhagavat Saptaha. They pretend that they can explain to you the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam in 7 days. Now, basically Prabhupada says, these people are phonies. They are doing it only to collect money and to collect praise and maybe disciples. But they're not bona fide, because Bhagavat Saptaha is not 7 days. Bhagavat is Nityam Bhagavata. Nityam Bhagavata. It should be heard every day. Prabhupada originally wanted devotees to hear 3 classes a day. Well, that may not be possible, but at least 1 class a day should be heard by everyone who claims to be a devotee. And because reading is not the same as hearing. Hearing the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita spoken by devotees is much more effective, many, many times much more effective than simply reading. Because you read, how much of it do you remember? I can ask you right now, how many times have you read the Bhagavad Gita? You might say, I've read it 5 times. What do you remember of the Bhagavad Gita? Not much. You say. So reading is not enough. Hearing is much more effective. Much more effective. Therefore, Prabhupada says, a sincere devotee must therefore be prepared to hear the Vedic literature. Notice he says, hear the Vedic literature, like the Upanishads, Vedanta, and other literatures left by the previous Acharyas or Goswamis, for the benefit of his or her progress. Without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. And without hearing and following the instructions, the show of devotional service becomes worthless, and therefore a sort of disturbance in the path of devotional service. These are very strong words by Srila Prabhupada. Unless, therefore, devotional service is established on the principles of Shruti, Smriti, and Purana, or Pancharatra authorities, the make show of devotional service should at once be rejected. An unauthorized devotee should never be recognized as a pure devotee. By assimilation of such messages from the Vedic literatures, one can see the all-pervading localized aspect of the personality of Godhead, meaning Paramatma, within its own self constantly. This is called samadhi. So, if you believe that Krishna is in your heart as Paramatma, then you will follow all these instructions, because you cannot hide anything from Paramatma. But if you are a loose devotee and loosely follow Krishna consciousness, you will not make any spiritual advancement. There might be something, but not anything significant. Why? Because of this abhorrence or definite reluctance to hear on a daily basis Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees. That's a reluctance, and you hold back, and you'll hold back also your money, you'll hold back your service, and you'll just do a little bit, whatever you think you like to do, rather than whatever you are duty-bound to do. When you make your vows of initiation and you say, I will chant 16 good rounds every day, I will eat only prasadam, I will hear Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam every day, and I will come to the temple and perform seva and associate with devotees on a regular basis. This is what you promised at initiation. This is what you must do. And if you don't do it, you'll end up being bereft of being liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Then Prabhupada says, Dharmasya hi apavargasya narto ritaya pakalpate nartasya dharmakantikasya kama labhaya hi smrita. All occupational engagements. Well, what does that mean, occupational engagements? It means dharma. There's dharma and there's sanatan dharma. I'll explain the difference between the two. But it says here, all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. In other words, you should never use the money that you make even for a little bit of sense gratification, such as going to Disneyland or going to Las Vegas, or going to places just for, R&R, rest and, what is the other R? Recreation. Yeah. This is nonsense. Devotees don't go for R&R. They go for parikram, to serve Krishna. Even if you go to Vrindavan, it's to do service there. It's not just to visit temples. It's to actually do service there. Right? You can do service, but you should do service. I mean, you can visit some temples. Just like Prabhupada, he said, my Gurudev appreciated me because I was more interested in hearing him than going on parikram. And he tells the story that one time he was in Vrindavan, and he was still a relatively new devotee, and his Gurudev was going to give a lecture, and then someone came into the room and said, devotees, dear devotees, tonight we can go on parikram to see the major temples of Vrindavan. Anyone who wants to do that, come with me now, right away. Most everybody left. Prabhupada stayed, and a few sannyasis stayed. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati looked at Prabhupada, who was a new devotee, and said, I see that he's interested in hearing, therefore I will do everything to help him to become a devotee. This desire, this ardent desire to hear and listen seriously is the sign that one is actually serious about advancing in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said, I didn't understand most of what my Gurudev said, but I was very, very happy to hear him speak. He actually said that. Because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used very high English to explain things. And he was speaking on the highest levels of Krishna conscious philosophy. But Prabhupada continued to go on hearing his guru and associating with his guru. He wasn't interested in parikram, he was interested in hearing his guru. This is called Shravanam Kirtanam. You learn by hearing and repeating. You don't learn by hearing a little bit and then going on parikram. You learn by hearing and repeating. And the reason we go to holy places is to associate with holy people, with genuine devotees who can speak Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita correctly, and it changes your life. Your life doesn't change by watching a movie. Your life doesn't necessarily change by going on parikram, but your life can change by hearing genuine devotees speak the Shastras. So therefore it says, we should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. So that is the Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, 9th verse. We have already discussed, Prabhupada says, that pure devotional service to the Lord is automatically followed by perfect knowledge and detachment. And this is a verse in Bhagavad Gita, a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, 6th verse. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jnanayat Yasu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahaitukam. That when one surrenders unto the Lord and engages full-time in devotional service, naturally knowledge and detachment develop. You don't have to work for knowledge and detachment. Those things will naturally develop by full engagement in devotional service, which includes hearing regularly on a daily basis Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So it says, but there are others who consider that all kinds of different occupational engagements, including that of religion, are meant for material gain. The general tendency of any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or any other occupational service. Even in the Vedic literatures, for all sorts of religious performances, an allurement of material gain is offered, and most people are attracted by such allurements or blessings of religiosity. Just like there are, in Seattle, these so-called pundits, they sell you things like amulets. They say, oh, if you wear this ring or if you wear this amulet that I bought from Vrindavan, then you will become rich, or you will have, your business will do better, or you'll have this benefit or that benefit. They are not pundits. They're nonsense people. And there's plenty of them selling amulets, selling mantras, selling this, selling that. It's all selling. It's business. It's not Krishna consciousness. And if you go to such people, you're also nonsense. Even though you might be initiated, even though you might have a bona fide guru, by going to those people and associating with them, you are also nonsense. We should not be fooled. Just like one nonsense came recently, last week, and they sent these information to all the temples. Oh, so-and-so is here, he's a healer, and he even called this temple. And one of his so-called followers called the temple, Gurudev says that there's someone in your temple who's very sick, and he's very concerned about it, so you must come and see him. This is all nonsense. This is complete rubbish. These people are cheaters, right? So if we become fooled by the cheaters, we also become nonsense. Okay, so then it says, why are such so-called men of religion allured by material gain? Because material gain can enable one to fulfill material desires, which in turn satisfy sense gratification. This cycle of occupational engagements includes so-called religiosity, followed by material gain, and material gain followed by fulfillment of desires. Sense gratification is the general way for all sorts of fully occupied men. But in the statement of Sutta Goswami, Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai, as per the verdict of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is nullified by the present sloka. In other words, if you work for material gain, whether it's devotional service or your job, and you use it, even a little bit of it, for sense gratification, then it says that your advancement in Krishna consciousness is nullified. It means zero. One should not engage himself in any sort of occupational service for material gain only, nor should material gain be utilized for sense gratification. How material gain should be utilized is described as follows. Nasta prayesu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati yatamasloke bhaktir bhagavati naistiki. By regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, this is first canto, second chapter, 18th verse. By regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed, and loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So every day we should repeat transcendental mantras glorifying Krishna's pastimes, like Brahma Samhita, and also like Purusha Sukta, etc. Glorifying Krishna and glorifying Krishna's devotees. Prabhupada says, Nasta presu abhadresu, abhadra. We have discussed yesterday abhadrani, all dirty things. This material life means dirty life. People do not understand it. They think by nice dress and nice apartment and nicely washed body, that is civilization. They do not know what are the dirty things which has attacked him. What is the contamination? That he does not know. Lokasya ajanata. It is said that the fools and rascals, they do not know it. Anartha pasamam sakshat, bhakti yoga mahoksaje, lokasya janato vidvams, chakre sattvata samitam. This is, again, from 1st Canto, 7th chapter, 6th verse, Srimad Bhagavatam. The anartha, the unwanted thing. In the name of civilization, we have increased so many unwanted things unnecessarily. This is called anartha. Artha means that which is substance. We can give so many examples. When there was no so-called advancement of civilization, people used to eat on utensils made of silver, gold, or at least metal. Now they are using plastic, and still they are proud of advancement of civilization. Actually, it is anartha, unwanted things. At least 200 years ago in India, there was no industry. I think I am correct, yes. But people were so happy. They did not have to go 200 miles or 500 miles away from home for earning livelihood. In Europe and America, I see people are going for earning their livelihood, sometimes by airplane and daily passengers. I've seen. From Vancouver, they're coming to Montreal and other places, 500 miles, at least 50 miles one must go. In New York, many people are coming from distant places, Long Island, crossing the sea, and then again bus again. Anartha, simply unnecessary. Chanakya Pandit says that who is happy? He says, the man who does not go out of home and who is not a debtor, he is happy. Very simple thing. Who does not go out of home and he is not a debtor, he is happy. So now we see everyone is out of home and everyone is a debtor. So how can you be happy? In America, the bank canvasses that you take money, you purchase motor car, you purchase your house, and as soon as you get your salary, you give it to me, give it to the bank. That's all, finished. You take the card. What's the card? Bank AmeriCard, or it's the gold card. Prabhupada said, bank card is bankrupt. And everyone started to laugh. You see, you take the card and you purchase whatever you like and deposit your money in the bank. Then again, you are without any money. Simply, you have the card now instead of the money. Right? And every month you're giving the money to the bank. Now, if you look in the newspapers or you look at the news today, you'll see that at this point in the history of the United States, people are in more doubt and more debt than they've ever been in past history, right now. They are using their cards over and over again, buying things, and they're going deeper and deeper into debt. It's more than it's ever been in the history of this country. Not only the government is in debt, now the people are in debt. See? So actually we are creating anarthas. Anarthas means unwanted things. So just like practical example, anartha pasamam sakshat bhakti yogam ahoksajay. If one is engaged in bhakti yoga practice, devotional service, immediately the anarthas will be diminished, just like our students, since they have joined this Krishna consciousness movement. They were all Americans, Europeans. They knew how to increase anarthas, unwanted things. It is confirmed. Immediately they have given up the cinema bill, the club bill, the intoxication bill, the gambling bill, and so many bills. And medical bill also. We don't pay very much medical bill. That's a fact. So actually, Krishna consciousness movement is so nice that if one takes to it, immediately he reduces so many rascal anarthas, which is not required. Does a man die without smoking? No. Does a man die by smoking? Yes. Does a man die by not eating meat? No. Does a man die by eating meat? Yes. Does a man die by giving up sex? No. Does a man die by having sex? Yes. You diminish your lifespan, and you will also diminish your health, you diminish your intelligence, and you will die young rather than die old. So by giving these things up, do people die by giving up gambling? No. But many people commit suicide by gambling away their money, you see. So therefore, the one thing we promise, first of all, is no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, whether in marriage or outside of marriage, and no intoxication, including coffee and tea. So we must follow those 4 regulative principles, because intoxication destroys mercy, illicit sex destroys cleanliness, gambling destroys honesty, and meat eating destroys the ability to perform tapasya, or austerity and self-control. So, therefore, it says, so actually Krishna consciousness movement is so nice that if one takes to it, immediately he reduces so many rascal anarthas, which is not required. Does a man die without smoking? It is anartha, unnecessary. They are habituated by bad association. Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodha bhajayate. By bad association, they learn how to smoke. How to gamble, how to eat meat. Just like in India, so-called gentlemen, they go to a hotel to taste meat, cow's flesh. How is it tasting? I know, personally, some of my friends have done that. He's talking about 50, 60 years ago, right? So these are anarthas. So Sutta Goswami said that if you want to reduce your anarthas, which are not wanted, anartha pasamam sakshat bhakti yogam ahoksajay. If you engage yourself in devotional service to the Lord, then immediately, directly, the anarthas will be diminished, which are not required, which are completely unnecessary. Anartha pasamam sakshat bhakti yoga. Just like in America, the government is spending lots of money, millions of money, to stop this intoxication habit of the young men. LSD, marijuana, liquor, tobacco, etc., drugs, benzodiazepines, and all kinds of legal and illegal drugs. But they haven't stopped it. It's increasing all the time. See? And it says, Prabhupada says, but they do not know how to stop, how they can be stopped. The government is so rascal that they do not know. Government means full of rogues and rascals. I tell you frankly, they do not know. Here is the medicine. The medicine is given, and it is practically happening. Anyone who is coming to us, although he has habituated to so many bad habits, immediately gives up. No intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex, immediately. But they will not come to patronize this movement. They will pay their officers and spend lavishly for some nonsense program and plan. Here is the medicine. Anarthapasamam Sakshat Bhakti Yoga Mahoksaje, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.6. Teach people Bhakti Yogam. All anarthas will be vanquished immediately. Anarthas means things which are not required. Anarthapasamam Sakshat Bhakti Yoga Mahoksaje, Lokasya Ajanata. So I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to go too late. There's a lot more to this. But we are on the cusp of opening a second temple. We need more donations to do it. Now, some of you here have not donated yet. I would humbly request you to make a pledge tonight. We're not going to go around and ask you right now, but you can go and speak to Namarata and make a pledge, no matter what it is. Some people don't have so much money. Some people actually have a lot of money. Make an honest pledge tonight if you have not already. When we open this second temple, it will be like a flash of lightning because it's in a very, very high-profile place, right in the Spring District of Bellevue. There are going to be 2 major temples there, one for Balaji, one for Radha Krishna. And the Radha Krishna temple at first will be streaming directly worship there on a big screen in a separate large room with kirtan and everything. And then in 2 or 3 years, we will have the deities installed with proper pundits or proper brahmanas. So 2 temples will open up in the same building. Both are separate. And there'll be a building that's twice as big as this building. So that means that we should increase twice as much as this building. So a couple nights ago, we had minimum 15,000 people came to this temple. And it went on for 3 days. So this is a huge number of people coming to the temple. That means that a lot of people are learning about this temple now and appreciating it because we do these outside festivals. We still have another 4 major festivals to put on. Next weekend, there's a festival at the farm. Then, Labor Day weekend, there's the Rath Yatra festival at Crossroads Park with a big parade on Saturday, the 3rd of September. And then 2 weeks later, there's Namaste India at the Sammamish City Hall. And then after that, there's the Lights of India and Diwali Festival at the Seattle Center. There's like 4 major festivals still there. We already did 4. Now there's another 4. And we'll do more next year. We'll do more next year. Already, we're approved to do a major festival in Marymore, let's see. Oh yeah, in the park. The name of that park is, what's the name of the big? Sammamish Park. It's called Spring Festival. It'll be in May. We didn't do it. We have funding for it and everything, but because of COVID, we didn't do it. But starting next year, we're going to do that also. And so now, it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of physical effort. But if you go back to Godhead, the first question, first thing Krishna does is shake your hand and thank you for coming. Yeah. The second thing you'll say, so what did you do? And you say, well, I didn't do that much. I didn't listen to what Hari Vilas said about, taking part in all those festivals because, it's too stressful. And, I like to stay at home and just study the Shastras, He said, oh, really? Well, I think you came to the wrong place. We're going to put you back where you were, right? But if you have a long list of things you did, Krishna will say, thank you very much. Take a second handshake here and enter. You're here forever now. So, you're going to be asked, what did you do? If you say, well, I didn't do that much, well, you have to go back. But at least you saw Krishna, and that'll give you the taste to do a lot more next time. Okay, so yes, please make your pledges tonight. We still have many devotees that we haven't asked. Some are on vacation, some are here, some are there. But we have to at least, we have raised $230,000 in the last 3-4 days. But our goal is $500,000. So that means we have to ask our friends. Look at all the people that came here. So you must know some of those people. You have to ask people gently and very humbly if they can donate so that we can finish the work on our new temple. And if they're satisfied with this temple, they're going to be satisfied with the next temple also, because we're going to do more or less the same things that we do there, but on an increased level. So you might say, well, how are we going to do it? We hardly can do all the service here. How can we go there? You don't have to go there. There's going to be a new congregation. I'm guaranteeing it. We will have a brand new congregation, brand new devotees. So many new people have come now, especially on the Janmashtami night. So many new people came, and many of them were very interested to get involved. Many of them asked me, how do I volunteer to help you guys? So we will have a brand new congregation there, a second congregation. So don't worry about, you're going to ask me to come and do arti in the new temple? No, I'm not going to ask you to come and do arti in the new temple or cook or anything. There's going to be a whole new group of people there. So make your pledges tonight, please. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so how do you think Gopal Krishna Maharaj has built 14 temples in Delhi? Right? By preaching. Huh? 16, okay. Well, he made 2 right away, right? It's by preaching. He's a preacher, and he's teaching his devotees to preach. You don't get donations, you don't open new temples unless you preach. You have to learn how to preach effectively to people. So if you're not preaching, you're just hanging around, you better learn. And the only way you learn is by coming to class, how to preach properly and effectively. And this new thing that we have, this Unite for Goodness and Act with Kindness, this will get many Americans also to join our movement, I guarantee you. One has already joined today, a new brahmachari. So we better get serious about preaching now. It's not just having fun in the temple. It's actually knowing how to preach and convince people to become devotees. Okay.
Aarti? You can do Aarti? This is about Feast Maharaj.
I'll give it to Namarata.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
But that's not your donation.
No. I beg you so. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure, Maharaj. Yeah, thank you.
Prabhu can sing. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando moi savadana mate બંધો મોઈ સાવધાન માતે જહાર પ્રસાદે બાય ભાવ તોરિયા કૃષ્ણ પ્રાપ્તિ હોયા હોય તે કૃષ્ણ પ્રાપ્તિ હોયા હોય તે ગુરુમુખ પદ્મા વાક્ય ચિત્તે તે કોરિયા આરના કરી મને આશા આરના કરી મને આશા શ્રી ગુરુ ચરણે રતિ એસે ઉત્તમ ગતિ જે પ્રસાદ પૂરે સર્વ આશા જે પ્રસાદ પૂરે સર્વ આશા चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से हे चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाशायते प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाशायते वेदे गाय जहर चरित वेदे गाय जहर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवन लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवन हा हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया प्रभु पाद करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया हे बेयाज गुशु त्रिभुवाना दुई पाद लोइल शरण श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतित पावन प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 जयो राधा नील माधव राधा नील माधव राधे जयो राधा नील माधव राधा नील माधव राधे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय श्री राधा नील माधव की जय।
जय विष्णुपाद जगच्चाद्य स्तोत्र सरस्वती श्रीमद His Divine Grace Gopal Goswami Maharaj की जय। श्री पाद शीला गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी महाराज आविर्भावतिथि महोत्सव की जय। श्री गोपाल गोस्वामी महाराज विश्वपूज महोत्सव की जय। पतित पावन गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद प्रेम सेवक गोपाल कृष्ण महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परम से प्रभाजकाचार्य सूत्र श्रीमद ISKCON प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि गौर प्रियजन कृष्ण प्रेम भक्ति दत्त पतित पावन His Divine Grace अभयचरण वृंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरी गुरु वर्ग पतिथि उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भद्र गुणात जीव गोपाल भट्टदास गुणसत गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद सदैत गदाधार शिव सरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरण अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रेम धान इनम संकीर्तन जग की जय। युग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। गृहमृदांग ट्रांसलेट और बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। शिव जबिम वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। जलोशिव श्री शिवरारंजल माधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण श्री गौरनिताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुर धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु स्मस्पद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। निताय गौर हरि परमानंदे हरि बोल। श्री मथुरा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories are glories. Glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Shri Vyasa Puja Mahotsava ki.
Okay, please everybody stand up. Now we're doing Pushpanjali. Om Ajnana Timrandasya
Om Ajnana Timrandasya
Jnananjana Salakaya
Jnananjana Salakaya
Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam
कृष्णं
स्थापितं येन भूतले
स्थापितं येन भूतले
स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं
स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं
ददाति स पदान्तिकं
ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु
श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं साधुदूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखावितंश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते गोपाल कृष्ण स्वामी निति नामने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ति नामने श्री वर्षभानुवी देवी दायते कृपा दे कृष्णा संबंध विज्ञान दायिने प्रभवे नमः माधुर्योज्वल प्रेमाधा श्री रूपानुग भक्तिदा श्री गौर करुणा शक्ति विग्रहाय नमस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्ताय दीनातारिणे रूपानुगा विरुद्धापा अपसिद्धान्तदवन्तहरिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्य मूर्ते विपर्लम्बर संबोधे पादां भोजायते नमः नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानंद नामने गौर शक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवरायते गौराविर्भाव भूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्ट सजना प्रिया वैष्णव सर्वभौमा श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्नाय कृष्णा प्रेमा प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतवीशे नमः पंचतत्वाकं कृष्णं भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तसात्विकम् हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिकांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते जायतं सूर्तोपंगोर माम मंद मतेर्गति मत्सर्वसपादां भोजो राधा मदन मोहनो दिव्ययाद्वृंदर्ण कल्पद्रुमदा श्रीमद् रत्नागारा सिंहासनास्तो श्रीमद् राधा श्रीला गोविंद देवो पश्लाभिसोमानुस्मरामि श्रीमान रासरसारंभी वामसीवत् तथा स्थिता कृष्णर्वेणु सवनिर्गोपीर गोपीनाथ श्रेयस्थाना तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वर्षभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमामि विष्णुपादाय कृष्णा पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामिनिति नामने प्रभुपदाय स साहित्यम या प्रकाशाय वित्र्या च प्रचारम कृतवान् साधु भागवत पदायते नमः। ऐसा पुष्पांजलि समर्पयामि। बढ़िया ग्राफ कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमामि विष्णुपादाय कृष्णा पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामिनिति नामने प्रभुपदाय स साहित्यम या प्रकाशाय वित्र्या च प्रचारम कृतवान् साधु भागवत पदायते नमः। एष पुष्पांजलि समर्पयामि। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णा पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामिनिति नामने प्रभुपदाय से साहित्यम या प्रकाशाय वित्रिया च प्रचारम कृतवान् साधु भागवत पदायते नमः ऐसा पुष्पांजलि समर्पयामि. Hare Bol. You want to speak?
Trying to speak to the microphone.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
First, I want to say special thanks to Harilas Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Today we learned in a lecture is very nice. Body to body attachment and soul to soul attachment. So Maharaj said, as long as you have a body to body attachment, we cannot go nowhere. So maybe just still in Samamis, stay here. Yeah. So we need to increase soul to soul attachment. And I have a very good experience. Soul to soul attachment is just 10 days ago. Guru Gopal Krishna Maharaj was here, and we cannot believe many devotees help a lot in every way. So I asked Kalindi Priti Mataji about Rangoli, and 3 Mataji came to our house, spent 3 hours in the night. Kalindi Priti Mataji and Madhav Kishori and Pratima Mataji. So thank you for them. And many devotees hosting the devotees come from, this time many devotees came from California, Sambhuaiji. So the devotee hosting is Amartand Prabhu and Yasomati Mataji, Ram Tulsi Mataji and Krishna Murli Prabhu. And who, I'm sorry, I forgot. Who was Raman Prabhu? Narhari Priya Prabhu. Yeah. Nityananda Vilas Prabhu. Yeah. So many devotees. Yeah. So we ask little help. So I asked little help, but he said we got so much help. So this is called the soul to soul attachment. Yeah, and other special thanks to Rasavati Mataji. She provide 3 days prasadam, so we should always do that. Yeah. So I'm just want to say thank you to everyone, and everyone who is here. Thank you for everyone too. Hare Krishna. So chant for everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Gaur Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.